If you stick to the basics, there are two ways to win a sumo match. 1. Get your opponent out of the ring. 2. Knock your opponent to the ground. It seems fairly simple, but when you're facing a 260-kilogram wrestler like this one, well, then things get a little complicated. There are essentially 82 winning moves in sumo, from pushing to throwing to leg tripping. That's why sumo wrestlers have to be powerful in their offense and also possess extreme stability in their defense. To win a sumo match is simple, but it definitely does not mean it's easy.
Now a solid outside grip by Wakataga Kage, moves forward, keeps pressure on Hokuto Fuji, who looks in trouble, but no! Great footwork by Hokuto Fuji, and Wakataga Kage goes down. He looked the winner.
And then there's this move.
Whoa! What?
This is called a henka. The henka is definitely one of the most polarizing topics among sumo fans, and you'll find a lot of discussion about it. Some people love it and some people don't. And then there's the new sumo fans who are confused by all the fuss. So I'm rounding all of them up and try and explain what's the big deal about the henka. The henka is a dodge. Specifically in this video, we'll be talking about the controversial henka pulled at the beginning of a bout, dodging at the tachiai. The tachiai is the part where the two wrestlers clash into a direct, full-on collision at the start of a sumo bout. There aren't a lot of combat sports that has this kind of powerful kickoff. In boxing and MMA, it's not uncommon to see fighters ease their way into a fight. In sumo, however, you will often expect an explosive start to each match because of the tachiai. But when a wrestler does a henka, this does not happen. And even though sumo matches can end in less than a minute, you can expect when a wrestler dodges, the bout could be over in a matter of seconds. So, when a sumo wrestler dodges the tachiai, does that mean he gets disqualified? Well, no, it doesn't. A henka is a perfectly legal move, and there isn't a written rule how the tachiai should specifically look like. Actually, the direct English translation of the Japanese word tachiai is a combination of the word to stand and meet. More often than not, henka is deployed mostly by smaller wrestlers as a strategy against bigger wrestlers. Avoiding a head-on collision with wrestlers who have an obvious size advantage can be seen as a smart maneuver to win bouts. And the surprising creative ways the smaller wrestlers do to win matches make them easy fan favorites. One example could be Enho, who often does not meet his opponents head-on. Perhaps the most famous rikishi for his technical creativity is wrestler Mai Noumi, who dodged the tachiai by stopping abruptly and ducking under the giant akebono, which won him the match in 1991. You can't deny that when David and Goliath-like bouts happen, it's thrilling to see how the small wrestler can outsmart his huge opponent, and henka is part of that entertainment. But what happens when one of the big boys pull a henka? It seems this is where people have problems with it. When it's between two wrestlers without major size differences, doing a henka in the bout is seen as cowardly. Why would the wrestler not want to clash with his opponent head-on? Could it be that the wrestler is nursing an injury that cannot take the force of a tachiai? Or desperation to record a winning score in the tournament? Or was it a smart move against an overeager opponent? Pulling a henka is by all means not an ultimate winning move. There is a counter to a henka. A sidestep to avoid the tachiai can be caught by a quick and agile opponent. Besides, pulling off a henka also puts the wrestler doing it in a vulnerable position. The quick and sudden change of direction makes the wrestler's weight lighter.
When I was at my best, henka was the best thing because it makes the person lighter. When you step up and move, your body just got lighter. And all you have to do is hit them right. The space between the henka area is just this much, so it's a high risk move, in fact.
So, if it's a perfectly legal move, evens out the playing field for smaller wrestlers, and it is a more of a high-risk move than a certified guarantee for a win, how come there's a strong movement against it? Well, like many things that get debated on in the Western Hemisphere of the sumo community, it all boils down to sumo's tradition and the concept of honor and dignity that wrestlers in professional sumo have to uphold. Grand Sumo is not just a sports competition. Most of what dictates how Grand Sumo is practiced today is the preservation of the sumo that was practiced in the Heian period. The conservation of the significant piece of Japanese history and culture is the reason why Grand Sumo still exists today. With that being said, anything that diverts from the norms and traditions are frowned upon, like not having a proper tachiai at the start of a bout. But if you consider the competitive and meritocratic nature of sumo, a win is a win no matter what technique was used to achieve it. At the end of the day, a sumo wrestler enters the ring to do one thing: win the fight at all means the rules allow. But you can also argue that victories validate your superiority against your opponent. If you dodged an all-out wrestling match, does your win legitimize how you're a better wrestler than the rest? But if you go all the way back to why sumo started in the first place, sumo bouts were held as religious rituals to entertain the gods for them to grant a good harvest. So whether or not the henka is entertaining, well, that's for the gods to decide.
Hey!